Are you seeking a better way to accelerate your sales, to scale your business, to live a life with no limits? Accelerate Sales Podcast features global experts who have cracked the code to recurring revenues with proven sales systems and get you on the fast track to scaling. Now let's accelerate your sales with today's episode.
Welcome to the Accelerate Sales Podcast. You're going to learn three key things out of this. One is not close, get closure. Really interesting thoughts on that. The second is remove overwhelm with automation. And the third one is don't do any follow-ups. That's right, no sales follow-ups. If you're a first-time listener, please subscribe. And if you're a regular, I love those reviews. Please take notes if you can, but there will be a summary within what app you're listening to, a more detailed summary within the website, which is paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast. And you can also get the full transcript as well. And before we go into the interview with Kevin Snow, I'd like to thank our sponsors. The first one is Cloud Consultants Collective. It's a free Slack community for like-minded peers helping each other to scale. And it's really for people who are reselling technology or consulting around technology, whether it be Salesforce, Microsoft, Soho, those type of things. So you can just go to cloudconsultantscollective.com. The link will be in the show notes. The other one is Send Spark. So, you're your best asset, right? So get more of that in front of your prospects. So Send Spark is a fantastic video tool that allows you to do that at scale, but it does allow some personalization. So it's a fantastic tool. I use it myself, highly recommend it. And if you go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/send spark, you'll get 6 months free. That's right, 6 months free. So today's guest is a co-host of a top 100. That's right, a top 100 Apple podcast called Growth Mode. He's the CEO of Time on Target. And he is a brilliant sales expert who is also a geek, as he proclaims in this interview. He's a geek with technology and really knows how to automate someone's business to help them grow. He's got 20 years of experience that he's going to draw from to drop golden nuggets. He's worked for companies like Frontiera Communications, Nextel, Salesforce, and BNI. And he also knows how to integrate technology with your sales process, but most importantly, in a really authentic, professional way, which he talks more about. He's a part entrepreneur, part salesperson, part networker, part technology geek, and also a part sales Star Wars fan as well, which I think he might be more than part. Anyway, we won't go there. So what I'm going to do now is hand you over to Kevin Snow from timeontarget.com. Great to have you here, Kevin.
Hey, it's great to be back, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long time since we've spoken. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I'm so glad to have you here today. But why don't we kick off with who are the clients that you love to help?
So my favorite clients right now, there's really two that I work with a lot. I still love doing stuff with tech companies. Those founders, CEOs that have a really cool idea that they're building, but they're not as confident in how to sell it and market it. I love going in and helping them actually build out that side of their business and figure out how to do that and tell their story effectively. So that's cool. I get to exercise my inner nerd a little bit with them. But then I'm doing a ton of stuff with coaches and consultants right now. And I'm loving working with them because they're all trying to have this massive impact on the world, and they're trying to change stuff. And it's really cool because they're just, a ton of passion behind what they're doing. And it's really cool to be able to take that and try and funnel it and mold it into really good messaging and sales automation that actually helps them accomplish their goals.
Right. Well, you've hit the sweet spot here. We've got lots of consultants, and we've also got lots of people that are selling technology. So you've hit the number. And what are the key problems that these people face?
Well, it's different. For the tech companies, it's usually they don't understand effectively how to message and how to take all the really cool things that they're building and talk about it in a way that the buyer enjoys and that they care about. You think about all the tech people, me included, we're all about cool things. We want bells and whistles. We want the features. A new Windows product comes out and we're reading down, what are all the cool new things it can do? But that's not how the normal business buyer operates. They really want to understand, all right, so what's this thing going to mean for me? What's my impact going to be? If I get this product, what is my end result? Where is it going to help me take my business? How is it going to help me take my business there? So for my tech companies, it's a lot of them translating the geek speak and all the features and bells and whistles into business owner speak and helping them understand how this product is going to help them. For my coaches and consultants, it's usually their big issues are overwhelmed. They have so much stuff going on. They're trying to scale a coaching or consulting business, and they just can't do everything anymore. So for when I come into them, we're really working on process for them and finding ways to replicate stuff through automation to free up time so they can now add one more mastermind group or talk to more people at once and not have to do all the manual labor between the meetings. So, two different groups, both actively trying to scale and both really passionate, but completely different issues that they're facing.
Yeah. And look, to talk about both quickly, I think the first one, I see it all the time, features, selling features rather than the result or the benefit, which, is often the result. I see that so often. And, how, I don't know if you've got any examples or, how do you turn that around? How do you turn it into something that's more results focused?
Well, it's for them, it's usually understanding what the buyer's asking. And we really take them through the process of working with their clients and being able to map out what that purchasing cycle looks like. And for your corporate sales, that's really important so that you understand, what questions is my buyer asking at each step of the way. And that's really going to drive what you need to be talking about and the type of content you're pushing out through automation or that you're building into your sales process, your actual in-person meetings, so that you are talking about the stuff that's important to them as opposed to what's important to me, the sales guy, with this really cool product, because the two aren't always the same. Yeah. For me, when I sold Nextel in one of my previous lives, and my big turning point in sales was when I had that realization that instead of selling the walkie-talkie feature, where it would always come down into price, can I beat the price for the other carrier? I started actually figuring out their business problems and showing them how they could use the tech to actually run more jobs and to allow their drivers or people out in the field to do more stuff during the day and to drive less and spend more time with clients, and where they actually now were making money. And so we're actually facilitating growth. And it was a lot easier for me then to sell this product and actually charge them more than my competitors were, because I was helping them make tens of thousands of dollars additional revenue a month. And it was now of value to them. And when I made that realization, that was the big light bulb for me. It's like, oh, all right, I need to sell a solution.
Yes.
And that my product happens to be able to do.
Yeah. So in that area in today's world, we talk about all these fantastic, I heard on a podcast recently, it's sales tech, not MarTech anymore. Like sales has got its own, specific tech stack now, which it has. There's been such a proliferation of things. What tools do you know that can help find out more about the problems that the buyer's got, or because yes, you used to be able to sit in front of people and observe that or ask that. That's getting harder and harder now. Like, is there any technology that expedites that learning phase?
So there's all kinds of different survey tools that you can use that's going to get you some of that basic information. You need to do a little deep dive into how to write a survey effectively so that you actually get good data from it and you're not leading on with questions. I read one the other day from it was a political campaign. I'm like, well, these aren't leading questions at all. So this is the worst survey I've ever read in my life. But so those are there. But I still think the best way, what we always do with clients is we actually will bring in clients. We'll bring in their clients and actually still do the talking and ask questions and let them share, because you're going to get a ton more information out of that conversation than any of those types of surveys. You can collect surveys, you can collect data points on what pages your clients are actually visiting. You can, cookies are still out there, but that's getting harder because people are getting smarter and turning them off and not accepting them. So the conversation's still the best piece, and it has the added benefit for my clients, where they're now able to build that relationship with that customer even more, because now, instead of trying to sell something, every time a salesperson calls me, it's to sell me stuff. But if they call me and say, hey, we want to ask you a bunch of questions, we'd love to get your feedback on how we sell and our process and our product, and help us form our roadmap going forward. Hey, can we buy you lunch next week? I'm like, yes, definitely. And now you get to have that real adult conversation that builds a relationship. So yeah. I encourage everyone to actually ask the questions. Just pick up and call and figure out what you're trying to do and ask them about it.
Yeah, and I think one of the powers of, I work for the Coke company, and one of the powers of the Coke company is that when, say, the CEO of or the president of Coke Global would come to our marketplace, you would go out and talk to end customers for us, which is, equivalent to consumers for a lot of tech companies.
Yep.
We would go out and, talk and meet, mum and pop stores. We would meet, everything. And then we go and have the board meeting and talk about what the next 20-year vision is. But we always stay close to the customer. And I think with technology, what you've highlighted is a really good point, that often we don't. So, I think, one of the things which you brought up beautifully is, don't just go to the customer, go to their customer. Right? Find out what their customer problems are, and then how you solve those and the solutions for that, and then go to the person you're working with. I think it's a brilliant idea. And as far as consultants, you talk about process automation and overwhelm. What are some of the practical things you can do to improve that? Because I know, once again, people talk a lot about automation, and then, the Zapier, and that gets complicated. You get errors, and, it all seems too hard. Like, how do you simplify that?
So we'll usually pick one or two things to automate that's going to have some immediate effect. So what happens usually when I'm meeting with a new client and they want to do automation, they really have some cool, grandiose visions of what they want to do. And it's usually like multiple campaigns, and it's going to be this huge, big thing with a lot of interactivity, and it's awesome, but it takes a while to build. Yeah. And most small businesses, because they'll try and do it on themselves. Most of my clients that I work with have done it on their own. And they're like, I screw this up. I've broken it. Can you just fix it? Because I've realized that I can't do it. Yes. So then I have to come in and fix it. And it's usually because they started too big. So when we start with a client, we'll find something right away that we can automate. And it's usually their sales process, especially for a coach or a consultant. It's like, all right, so let's walk you through your process. And I map it out and I figure out all the key things that they do each step. And then I'm like, all right, we're going to do an automated email here. We're going to do task reminders for you here. We automate updating your CRM based on you completing stuff. So you now don't have to go in and type in as much stuff. And it's just, the goal is to have an immediate impact on their life, where they've gotten rid of some tasks. So they're like, oh my God, I have an extra hour a day that I can do stuff. This is awesome. But then we're pushing out good content to their prospects at the right time, so that they're getting the questions answered when they're thinking about it. And they're like, oh my God, how'd you know I was answering this question? Or I was thinking about this question. This is awesome. And it leaves that good taste in their mouth. So, that's the key for small businesses. Start with one thing. Yeah. Figure out the one thing that is causing you pain and heartburn, and automate that.
And just with emails, right? Because I know there's two schools of thought. One school is, you never have in a sales process an unsubscribe email sent. And then the other is, so what's your view on that? I can tell by your face what the answer is, but anyway.
So the funny thing is, most people will not recognize that it is is an unsubscribable email. We have for my business partner, we have a Facebook group, and every time someone joins the group, there is an automation that runs through our email, sending them a series of welcome emails saying, hey, welcome to the group. Here's the rules. If you break them, we're going to kick you out, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Well, the second email, and these are all automated. No, we don't send these out manually ever. The second email starts with the subject line is, oh my God, I'm a ASS. I'm so sorry. It's like our number one most opened email. And then it goes in there, I'm so sorry. I was so excited for you to be a member. I was telling you all this stuff and I completely forgot to introduce myself. Hi, my name's Donnie. And it gives you, here's 4 things about me that you probably wouldn't know. And then at the end, we ask them a question. And we get on a weekly basis people replying to it saying, oh my God, Donnie, you're not an ass. I didn't think that at all. I love the emails. And Donnie and I laugh every week, like, there's a big giant unsubscribe button at the bottom. How do you miss a thing? It's like sent by Entreport. If you don't want to get any more emails from us, that's okay. We're going to be sorry. We're going to be sad, but click here. So people don't actually understand that. They might know it, but then they read it and then they still hit reply.
Yeah.
So
that's
it's right. all how you format it. If you do the big pictures, HTML background stuff, newsletter. But if you format it so it looks like a normal email and throw in some personalization, hey, Paul, it's Kevin, blah, 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 people will read it like that type of email.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also, some people say, well, what happens if I get the sequence wrong or whatever? I'm like, well, people, it happens to them all the time, right? It's not the worst thing in the world, right? Like look at Ukraine at the moment, we're in 2022, that's a disaster out of 10. Like, sending someone the wrong email out of sequence is like, it's not even above 1. And what about tasks? So what are some examples of some of the tasks that you can automate? You said in your sales CRM you're doing them. What are some examples?
So I worked with a roofing company and we automated their sales process. So after that first meeting, the key task for that sales guy was to come back from the house and to put together the pricing and send them the pricing proposal. So, he'd mark that meeting complete in Entreport, make some notes, and then would set up a task in his to-do list to do pricing. And the contact would sit in the campaign until that was done. And then once it was done, then we would send them additional content. So those tasks, I use them to make sure that there's that human piece in the sales process yet, which is really key. And you're not getting content to the buyer before they're at the stage where they're ready to get that information. So it's a great way to make sure that your automation is flowing in sync with how your sales team is operating.
Yeah, great. And look, when I did some research, I came across a statement, not close, get closure. What do you mean by that?
So I hate the fact that most salespeople are trying to get to the big yes. They want to get to a yes or a no, which is awesome. But that usually means you're going to rush through the cycle. You're going to rush through the process. You're going to get ahead of where your buyer's at. So we teach everyone to go for closure, not for the close. And by that, we teach everyone that sales is just a conversation with an outcome. So you think about whenever we talk to our friends, whether it's texting or we're on the phone with them, when we get done with the conversation, there's always hey, all right, so I'll call you on Saturday, or I'll check on tickets and we'll go do this. There's always that next step in the relationship. Yeah. And that's the way sales needs to be. When I get done with a sales conversation, there is always a next step. Either both of us have to do something, or we've gotten to the point where I'm like, well, if it's not a yes, then it's a no, because I don't chase. And we have that conversation. But there's always an outcome. And it's always built to move the relationship forward.
Yeah. And what do you mean by you don't chase?
So I am horrible at follow-up. So I've just built my sales process around not having to follow up. So I am all about one call closing. And I do that with digital marketing all the time. And I have a lot of friends like, you one call close digital marketing? I'm like, yes. it's super easy to do if you know how to do it. So I don't follow up because I hate that whole, all right, so, you told me to give you a call on Tuesday. Are you ready to buy now? And it's like, well, call me back. And then you get in this never ending routine and it's just horrible. And it makes your pipeline overinflated. So I want specific outcomes. When I get to the end of a meeting, we're at the close, there needs to be, all right, so you have to do something and I have to do something to keep this relationship moving and for me not to mark you as a no. And then if you don't do it by a certain time, I get permission to call you and say, hey, what the heck? You were going to do this by now and you haven't. So even with like proposals, I will not do proposals unless we've already set the meeting where I'm going to talk about that proposal with you.
Yes.
If you won't set that meeting, I won't give you a proposal.
Yeah.
Because that's now just a stall tactic. So there's got to be that outcome where we can come to an agreement.
Great. So when you say one call close, it's not maybe closing the end deal. It's just getting the key next step for. So there may be calls after that, but it's you want the key action that they're going to take. So
80% of my sales calls right now, I have a yes at the end of them now.
Right.
So I don't, because I do a ton of stuff with referrals. So my sales process looks like this. I meet with the client and it's all about them. So I get them to telling me all their story, all kinds of information about how things are working, what's the pain they're feeling, what's the impact it's having on their ability to do business, their life, all that stuff. So that I get them to bare their soul. And then I spend the next part of the meeting is all teaching. Yeah. And I will just unload, hey, here's what we can do. And I actually give them solutions that they can literally write down. If they want to go copy it, they can go copy it. But I give them a ton of stuff. So at the end of the meeting, like, oh my God, that is awesome. When can we start? And that is how I sell now. I'm going through during the part where they're telling their story. I'm trying to figure out where they fit in my product line. Yeah. Are they at my $3,000 a month retainer level? Are they at my $1,500 a month, or are they a one-time project guy?
Yeah.
And trying to do that qualifying. So then when I'm doing the teaching and showing them how they can do stuff and make it better, and they're talking about the results, I'm talking about where they're already at and where they're comfortable. And so it's an easy yes for them. And that's when I might make sure they understand. It's like, I'm not going to chase you. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you in the future decide you want to work with me and you don't say yes today, that's cool. Call me back and we can talk. But I'm not going to follow up with you every 3 days, hoping you say yes.
Yeah. And do you put them on are they already on your email list? Like,
yep.
Yeah.
So, and I have some automation that goes out. So there are times where if I'm working with a bigger company, I might have to do a proposal, or I might have to do a second call and bring in another person to talk. But most of my businesses, I meet with the owner.
Yeah.
I know they can make a decision, and I'm going to press them to be an owner and make a decision.
And what about, so I love the getting about them. I always start with that as well, because it was a little embarrassing story, but I always collect partners' names, children, etc., and use it. Right. And 12 months later, I sent a guy a note, and he came back and said, I can't believe you remember my wife's name, but unfortunately we're now divorced. And I'm like,
I'm sorry.
He said, I hope you're in a better situation. And I'd sent back saying, I'm married to a Sicilian, marriage or death. That's
yeah.
But where I was going with that, like, do you send them any questions in the schedule or whatever beforehand to fill out on any information about their business, or is it just straight into the call?
I always start with a really, really open-ended question: is tell me your story. Yeah. And I want them to, because then I get to see where they take it. I was just on this chat string on LinkedIn. Someone was complaining they had just gone through a job interview, and the interviewer started off with, all right, so tell me about yourself. And they was like, well, that's why I have a CV. I'm like, no, that's
No.
not why you have your resume. Here's why we ask that.
Yes.
Having done
And
a
that's
few
why you're
thousand of these.
unemployed and haven't got a job.
Yeah, that is, and then you copped attitude about it, and that's why they're like, "Oh, thank you for your time," and you left 15 minutes later. So, but I like having people tell me their story, because then they really they get to take it where they want, and I get to hear some really cool things about them that I might not have heard before if I just start asking really pointed questions. And I've learned over time to integrate my questions when I hear something that's a trigger for it in the conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm like, they say something about their business. Oh, really? All right. That's really cool. Tell me about that.
Yes.
And now they get to expand on that. And I'm furiously scribbling things down and coming up with ideas for how we can automate stuff. Really, I'm getting them to talk about the big stuff. I try and get them to talk about is, the impact on their life and their business, how things are going now, what it's causing for them. We're not able to hire people, and we can't keep our salespeople, or, whatever that issue is, and how it's causing their business to stagnate, or their personal life, because they're working all the time and they take work home. I want to hear that stuff.
Yes.
Because then I can dig into what's actually going on in the day-to-day stuff, and then say, all right, what would it mean if we could actually cause you to have a couple hours at night that you play with your kids? And I can start asking those questions, so they now visualize it and say, all right, so here's how we're going to do it. Yes. And then I can lay out my picture, and I can scribble what automation could look like. They're like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And then I can say, all right, awesome. When do you want to start?
Yeah.
So
right.
This level of service is this. When are we starting?
Yeah.
Do you want to start Monday? And then, that's my close. I don't do any of the Ben Franklin or the takeaway close, or, if you buy by the end of the month, we're going to do this. I think that's so hokey.
Yeah.
And it's not how you should sell in business.
Yeah. And look, definitely, look, 100% agree. Right. And it's something that we do as well. And I do think that, one of the benefits of running a business like what you and I have is you do normally talk to the owner, right? And the owner has got one life, and the business is trying to fund the real life, and it's all integrated. So I think that's a perfect way of doing it. It's sometimes it can be a little different for enterprise, and I'm glad I don't work with enterprise anymore. But if you do, there's still a human there, right? There's still a person. And the last thing I want to talk about before we go into the deep dive is around LinkedIn. Do you do anything on LinkedIn? What's working? What's not working? Really interesting to see.
I actually don't do a ton on LinkedIn. I do a ton of prospecting on Facebook.
Right.
So I live in Facebook groups. And so I will find Facebook groups that have my target audience in them.
Yeah.
Usually for focus on other parts of the business, or, just general business scaling groups for my target. And I use those as my hunting ground. But I don't do it like everyone else does it, where someone asks a question and they're like, oh, yeah, we totally can help you with that. Let's jump on a Zoom call.
Just DM me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. DM me and we'll jump on a call. Like, oh, you're not going to get pitched at all in those. So when someone asks a question that I'm an expert in and I can give answers, I'll drop a wall of text. And that's how I found my business partner now for Success Champions. He posted in a vet group that he was frustrated with MailChimp because he broke it. He doesn't know how to fix it. And he was just super frustrated. Everyone was like sharks to chum. It's like, oh yeah, let's jump on a DM or, jump on Zoom call. And I'm like, all right, here's the 5 things you need to look at. And I gave them all the answers.
Yes.
And he literally is DM me. It's like, hey, that was freaking awesome. Can we get on a call? Like, yeah, totally. So I've got on the call with him. And the first thing I said is like, I don't do MailChimp because it's dumb and it sucks. I use these other programs, but I'll totally tell you everything I know and hope and wish you all the best. So I gave him all the answers. And he's like, this is great. And he went back and implemented them. And like 2 months later, he messaged me again. It's like, I broke it again. How do I hire you? And we can put it on your stuff. And that's how I do it. My goal in these groups is to create conversations. And to drop information and get people to say, oh, that was awesome. What about this? And now we're having this big chat.
Yeah.
And if the OP, the poster actually messages me and reaches out and says, let's jump on a call, awesome. But I'm trying to get all the lurkers, all the people that read that, they're like, oh my God, I'm having this issue too. So they like it and they follow it, and now they want the answer.
Yeah.
And those are the people that when I get the message saying, hey, I saw the answer you did on Paul's post about email. That was freaking great. Can you jump on a call? Because I have a bunch more questions. Oh, hell yeah, I'm in. Let's go. Here's my calendar link. Pick a time that works. But I never ask for the DM unless we've gotten really deep in the conversation. We're starting to get really technical. And I'll be like, hey, we're about to get really technical. Can we jump on a call and I'll give you all the answers? But I want them to do the asking. Normally, I will wait for them to say, hey, can I DM you, or can we jump on Zoom? Because now I have permission to sell to them.
Yeah. That's brilliant. And is that predominantly coaches and consultants, or are you also finding your tech clients there as well?
I get a ton of tech clients from there. I've done cold email and permissive email stuff in Canada, Australia. I've done stuff all over the world from those groups. So
yeah, great, brilliant. All right, well, are you ready for the deep dive?
Sure.
Short, sharp answers, right? So we can
short answers. I will try.
Yeah, we can let you continue your ride, your cycle, whatever you're doing at the moment. But remember, we're talking to Kevin Snow from time-on-target.com. So let's go. What are some daily sales habits, other than what you've mentioned, that you do to accelerate your sales?
All right. So my reach outs are a daily thing. So 20 minutes every morning, 20 reach outs. And those can be messages on LinkedIn. It can be posting in a group on Facebook, replying to someone's post on Facebook. But I do 20 minutes a day. My goal is 20 reach outs each day, and then I'm done. And then I can go on with the rest of my world.
Brilliant. And you talked about Ontraport. What other technology do you use to accelerate sales?
So Ontraport's my big automation tool. It does all my billing, all my automations. But then Calendly, I have like 20 different types of meeting types in Calendly that I use for different stuff. So that's huge. I have a CRM. Actually, I have like 3 CRMs, but it's usually because I'm testing them and playing with them to see which ones I like. So those are huge.
What's your preferred one at the moment?
Right now, I have a couple. Zoho is really awesome because I love their flexibility in reporting. Yep. And you can really do a ton of custom reporting for people, which is awesome for my numbers-based clients who love that type of stuff. And then Pipedrive is also one of my favorites because it's super easy for the users to use.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. So, and for you, you've talked about Facebook groups, but what's another source of leads for you for your business?
Oh, I do a ton of referrals. So that the bulk of my clients come from referrals right now. And that's really from, the outreach I do. And when I meet people in a referral setting, I do the exact same thing as I do on the Facebook groups, and I answer their problems, and I share, I overshare content, and everyone's like, oh my God, how can you do that? You're giving away all your secret sauce. I'm like, if they can apply it, awesome. That means they're not my client. They weren't a good fit. If they're a DIYer, they're not for me. I want people like, oh, that's awesome, but that sounds like way too much time for me. How much to have you just do it? So,
Yep. Beautiful. And the last one, the big one at the end. So what's one action we can take from today to 10x our sales?
The one action you need to do is understand how your clients make a decision. Most people jump into this, the sales thing, and think everyone decides the same way. And your different target markets are going to make decisions differently. And depending on the size of your business, it's going to adjust as well. If you go into an enterprise type sale, there's going to be multiple people that are involved, and you need to know the dynamics. So, and I screwed that up so many times when I was in enterprise sales at the beginning, because I didn't understand the politics of how that decision was made. And I didn't understand who actually made a decision, even though they didn't have the money. So you got to understand upfront how your clients make decisions, so that you can be doing the right things. If you get too far ahead of them and you're pushing the close when they're still at the deliberation stages, you're going to scare them away. So that is the number one thing you got to do is understand your buyers.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, you've given so much value here. Like you said, you give so much value across Facebook and referrals and wherever else people interact with you. And you've also given something here for everyone watching or listening now. So if you go to now, is it to +1 612 429 4298. Now, most of you won't get that, right? But in the links and in the note part of where you're listening or watching this at the moment, we'll have that number, right? But the most important thing is you'll get an awesome guide on the buying process and also specific content to help with each step in the sales process. So go and grab that off Kevin and also give him a shout out, right? Give him a shout out once you've got that and tell him what you've done with it and how you've used it. But Kevin, absolute joy having you on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. For your listeners, they need to text 2 words to that number. They got to text the word sell smarter. That way my automation knows what they're looking for and I'll send them the right stuff.
Perfect.
So
yes.
So send those 2 words to me and I will send out that guide. So, but thank you so much for having me on, Paul. It was another awesome conversation. And for you listeners, if you all got any value out of this, find one person that you can introduce to Paul and his podcast and teach them how to listen to it and help them get it on their favorites so they can listen to it every week too.
Brilliant. Well said. Thanks, Kevin. Bye.
Yep. Thanks, Paul. Have a great rest of your week.
That was a great interview with Kevin. And I really loved a couple of key things that he said. One was around results, not features. And to be honest, I've been very guilty of that, especially when I used to do demos of software. There was nothing worse than showing everyone the features and not really working out what they wanted to solve and do that in the quickest way possible. The second is don't chase. I love his thing to get to a hell yes at the end of a sales call, and if not, it's a no. And the third thing is around Facebook groups and what he does there to gain clients. And share the learnings, as I said in the podcast, what you've learned. Just share it with Kevin and thank him. You can do that on LinkedIn is probably the most preferred way of doing it. And you can find out more on time-on-target.com. The links will be in the show notes. And everything else that we've mentioned will be in the show notes. Once again, you can get notes here on wherever you're listening to it. You can get more detailed notes. And I've got to say, shout out to my team. They do a brilliant job. So that's at paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast. And you can also get the full transcript, if I put my teeth back in, as well. And, why don't you share it with 1, 10, how many people you want to share it with? They'll love you. They'll think you're a rock star. And it's no use keeping gold like this to yourself. And, help them accelerate their sales. Check out our solo shows and also our free Slack community, which is cloudconsultantscollective.com. Next week, the guest is going to be Yvonne Herman, and it's going to be on business efficiency and my favorite project management platform, which is ClickUp. As always, please take action to accelerate your sales.
I'm fired up after today's episode. What about you? But hey, before you go, learning is just one piece of the puzzle. Now it's time to put today's strategy into action. Head over now to today's show page at paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast and share how you'll put it into action. Be sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe, rate, and review the show. Tell me what your favorite episode is. And don't wait 1 minute more to gain access to your pulse check at paulhigginsmentoring.com. This could be the difference between struggling to get more leads and making this next quarter your best one yet.